So I think we start now. She's not here yet, but okay. Hello everyone and welcome to our last afternoon lesson or lecture. I would like to welcome, moment, I have to switch it off here. Everything okay? I would like to welcome, to introduce our speaker. It's Justina Pelch. She will come to the lecture later. She is from the University of Wrocław, Wrocław University of Science and Technology. Justina, very welcome.
Thank you, but Arek will be our presenter, so.
Okay, and Arkadiusz Kolodzej comes from the Medical University of Warsaw, and the lecture is about hospital on the moon on the example of the Alldream project. So have fun, enjoy the lecture, and you can start.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Arkadiusz Kolodzej and I am a fifth-year medical student, and I would like to present the project of Alldream Institute, which is basically a hospital on the moon. The project was conducted by teams of 2 analog space missions, Bright 1 and 2, and took part in the Home on the Moon contest organized by Alldream Family Foundation and Share Space Education. I will start with some general information about the Alldream Lunar Institute, and then I will focus on medical part of this institute. Next, I will describe a clinical case that may occur on the moon and tell you how our hospital could deal with it. And I will finish with some conclusions. Alldream Lunar Institute is an ultra-modern medical facility with the access to state-of-the-art equipment. It is intended for taking care of emergency medical situations that may occur among people living on the moon, because returning to Earth may be impossible in most cases of emergencies due to travel time and risks associated with it. Alldream is also a research facility for space medicine and astrobiology. It will enable the development of new technologies and research methods in the field of telerobotics, medical automation, and telemedicine. Supposing that people traveled to the moon and started living there, they would definitely need medical treatment given the conditions on the moon and factor of isolation from terrestrial resources, which make our institute an useful element for the future moon society. Our hospital consists of modules of 3 sizes. The modular structure is extremely important as it guarantees safety on the one hand, as all buildings are separated from each other by airlocks, and on the other hand, it allows easy, continuous development of the institute. Modules are connected by overground corridors in such a way that each building has at least 2 exits with airlocks for safety reasons, of course, and these modules are covered with appropriate layer of 3D printed regolith, which will fulfill several functions, which for me, the most important thing would be the protection from radiation, but it will also provide a thermal isolation, and it will protect sensitive parts of the hospital from debris, micrometeorites, and other elements, and additionally, it will strengthen the building structure. As our project is a hospital and patients can demand special conditions, we wanted to avoid the high buildings. For this reason, each building consists of a ground floor with entire medical and day part, and only 1 floor where research is carried out as a part of our laboratory. This 3D model shows the location of all buildings and communication corridors between them. We have provided the possibility of direct entry to the hospital through 2 locks for rovers prepared for this purpose, thanks to which the procedure of entering the hospital will be simplified, and it will not require the use of appropriate suits. It is especially important in cases of immediate health and life emergencies, when putting suits on may be difficult or even impossible. Moreover, the 6 ambulance rovers that may be sent to the patient in case of emergency, this is an exemplary model of such ambulance that could be used in the hospital. So now let me tell you briefly about life support systems in this facility. The key to survival on the moon will be water. We will rely on highly effective water purification system outside the Alldream Lunar Institute. We could also use technology that was implemented within the ISS. Power will be supplied to each family outpost by solar panels during the lunar day and from batteries during the lunar night, taking into account the high risks associated with the lack of access to electricity in the hospital because of all of those devices and machinery. We took into account additional power sources, so uranium power plants and batteries. Air will be delivered by colony's ventilation system, but I think it's worth to mention that oxygen can be also made from water during electrolysis. Such mechanism could also be used there. Food will be delivered to Earth, but there's also a possibility of growing food on the moon. Department of Deep Space Bromatology, which is a part of our lab, will take care of food production. Medical equipment and some of the drugs could be produced on site in the laboratory and by using 3D printers. Unfortunately, it is difficult to predict which of them can be produced on a larger scale. So at the beginning, the hospital will definitely need a full supply of all of these products. The vast majority of waste will be transported back to Earth in order to segregate them and recycle some of the materials, but we can also implement some of the Melissa project ideas and use simple microorganisms to reprocess the biomass and produce oxygen and food out of waste. Alldream Lunar Institute has many to offer, but today I would like to focus on medical part of this project. I will describe shortly rooms of the hospital, starting with intensive care unit. Within ICU, doctors and robots will treat common conditions like acute respiratory distress syndrome, septic shock, and other life-threatening conditions. Patients may be referred here directly if they rapidly deteriorate, or immediately after surgery if it's very invasive and the patient is at high risk of complications. Robotic arm inbuilt within wall make it possible to take care of each patient quickly and precisely. And RoboNavs too can aid in a variety of medical procedures. These activities can be done in teleoperation mode, where the robot is controlled by a technician or physician, or in autonomous mode. R2's intelligent system allows the robot to partake in many medical scenarios. Operating rooms, which are probably my favorite rooms of the hospital, have the newest generation Da Vinci robot that enables surgeon on the moon to procedure complicated operations of wide range of specialties, from robotic appendectomy through cardiac surgery procedures onto intracranial aneurysm treatment. Every of these procedures can be performed by using special console and vision system. Due to telemedicine, surgeons from Earth could take part in the operation by controlling some of the robotic arms and discussing complications. Here we can see the Da Vinci in the whole picture. And the diagnostic room is the space for the patients who need extended medical imaging. Before undergoing any surgery, whether on Earth or in space, diagnosis is always the first step to understand the medical situation. So there's an X-ray lamp, USG, ECG, echocardio, mobile CT head, and also there could be portable MRI, which is a quite new device. I think I saw it this month actually. It is really portable MRI that could be used next to the bed of the patient. But really important will be also DEXA machine that could be used to measure bone loss, which is very crucial given the lower gravity conditions on the moon and associated with them high risk of osteoporosis and bone fractures. It is worth to mention that we do not really know the long-term effects of lower gravity on the moon because obviously we've been there last time in 1972. So the proper study should be performed. That's why we should implement such devices like DEXA machine there. What is more, there are also hall with 2 doctors' offices, patient's room, cleaning room, morgue, and isolation room in case of potentially contagious patients. Now, I would like to tell you a few words about Alldream Services System. This table shows the medical data that we'll be able to gather from inhabitants of the moon due to listed devices. This data will be priceless for prevention and diagnosis. There are also other functionalities of the system. For example, in critical situations like heart attack, loss of consciousness, or respiratory arrest, the system will automatically send a distress call to clinic with localization data of the personal sensor. Apart from all of these countermeasures, all of the moon inhabitants will be examined at least once a month in the hospital to control their health and prevent side effects of lunar conditions such as bone loss that I mentioned before. Let me show you how the lunar hospital works in practice. Let's assume the hypothetical case of a patient with acute appendicitis, which is one of the most common causes of acute abdominal pain in adults and children. And as I am almost a clinician, I will present it in the shape of the clinical case. Our patient is female, she's 26-year-old and lives in the house on the moon with her parents. In the morning, a few hours after breakfast, she started to feel epigastric pain, followed by brief nausea, vomiting, anorexia. So she took 200 milligrams of ibuprofen twice, and after a few hours, the pain shifted to the right lower quadrant. She used Alldream Services System that can be accessed from every house on the moon and added her symptoms to the database, due to which doctors could have access to her medical record and decide whether or not she needs to be transported to the hospital. The patient presented classic symptoms of appendicitis that appear in around 50% of patients with this pathology. She was transported to the Alldream Hospital by medical rover and admitted to the diagnostic room for clinical evaluation with ultrasound. According to the Alvarado score, which is a clinical scoring system used in diagnosis of acute appendicitis, she gained 8 points, which means that the diagnosis of appendicitis, acute appendicitis, is probable. What is more, ultrasound imaging favors this diagnosis. So the patient had a quick surgical consultation and was admitted to the operating room. Treatment of acute appendicitis on Earth is open or laparoscopic appendectomy, but in our hospital, it will be preceded by surgical robot Da Vinci controlled by the surgeon using the console and with a telemedicine consultation with another doctor who's going to supervise the procedure from Earth. On Earth, reduced mass, smaller entry scars, and shorter recovery times from minimally invasive surgery are revolutionary. That's why this system is also used on the moon. Laparoscopic instruments along with microscopic surgery devices are crucial given lower force of gravity. Thanks to them, operation field remains relatively clean and it's easier to take care of the bleeding, because blood will remain in the body. So as we can see in the picture, the patient would be fixed to the operating table, which prevent from lifting over due to lower gravity forces. 3 small incisions were made to access the appendix after proper anesthesia, of course, controlled by anesthesiologists in the OR. And the Da Vinci surgeon inflates abdomen with CO2 gas, which allows a clear view of the appendix. Then it is detached and removed carefully through one of the incision sites. The procedure was finished within 45 minutes and the patient was transferred to one of the patient's rooms. After 48 hours of thorough doctor's follow-ups, she was ready to come back home. Before the patient was discharged from the hospital, doctors helped her learn how to take care of her incision sites. They prescribed antibiotics and pain relievers to support her recovery process. Alldream services system available via any patient's mobile device allows her to provide her doctors with information about her state, new symptoms, and possible complications of surgery. To conclude, a facility such as the Alldream Lunar Institute will be indispensable if you want to colonize Moon for good. This institute combines the elements of a hospital and research facility, modern technologies, and the best specialists from the world of science are the 2 most important foundations of our project. Living in homes on the Moon is associated with high risk of exposure to conditions that we're not used to and which may pose new challenges that we can't predict. We know how factors such as radiation, lowered gravity, and others affect human physiology, but we do not really know the long-term effects of exposure to such conditions. Assuming the concept of living on the Moon permanently, the medical and research facility dealing with these problems will be extremely important, especially in the context of plans for the further conquest of the solar and other systems present in the deep space. Thank you. Of course, if you have any question, I'll be happy to answer. If you prefer email, contact, here you are. And I will also add that the project will be released as a book in November, so feel free to contact me and read it. Thanks.
Thank you very much for this interesting lecture. And I have here some questions in the chat.
Sure.
The first one is from Dave Hum. Since a morgue can be any cold storage area, why not use a separate evacuated area, not part of the hospital? Why dedicate a special room as part of the base?
Well, we do not, as I mentioned, we do not really know everything about the Moon and possible challenges that may affect us. So we assume that the morgue will be useful for pathologists to work there and to assess bodies after diseased bodies after emergency, after trauma, after death, to get to know what happened. And actually there are quite a lot of storage area because, as I mentioned, all of the buildings have at least 1 floor, and within a lot of buildings are quite a lot of storage room.
Mm-hmm. The next question is from another space nut. Could surgery robots complete an advanced operation such as removal of endometriosis?
Well, I don't really know about endometriosis if it's proceeded right now on Earth, but surgical robots do a lot of complicated procedures, and such procedures like appendectomy is probably also done on Earth. So I would say that in future also endometriosis will be removed by robots.
And here's another question from Jorge Gomez. Have you think to use this design to fight COVID-19 pandemic?
Well, not really, but that may be the idea for the future.
And another question, how would the several second delay affect care?
You mean the delay in information? Yeah. Yeah. So on the moon, it will not be a serious problem in case of operations like appendectomy, because this operation is quite easy, I would say, and the it will not affect a lot the procedure. In case of serious neurosurgical procedure, for example, that would be a problem. So that's why we have also surgeons in the hospital on the moon.
Okay, is there any other question from the auditorium? Okay, if not, I would like to say thank you for this interesting lecture.
Thank you.
And thank you to everyone for joining this lecture. And I wish you a pleasant evening with the evening program. And I wish you a lot of fun with Mass Society Convention. Okay, I wish you a nice evening. Good night. Okay, ciao.
Night.